How you doing, folks? This is Peter at the Shalom Peace, and I come to you with a little bit of a heavy heart. A friend of mine was talking to me about some doctrines, dogma that she's been getting taught, and it seems to be a common school of thought right now also going around. There's a lot of different doctrines and things that are not coming from the core of the scriptures, where we should be maintaining our foundation of our faith. This is really important because the scriptures are not supposed to have errors in them. They're supposed to be holy, 100% holy. And what's happening, there's a lot of movements going around right now where people are accepting doctrines or passages in scriptures, manuscripts that have errors in them. What I call this is translations without holiness. And why would we want to rest the value of our soul in a manuscript that has errors in it? When this has eternal consequences. Why would we want to rest in that? Why would we want a translation that doesn't have holiness? And I have a couple questions for you guys about the books you read, and it goes like this. Do you allow for mistakes in your holy books? Do you allow mistakes in the books you read that are supposed to lead you to divine inspiration? If you allow mistakes in your books, you are not holding your salvation up to the standard it needs to. You're letting yourself drink dirty waters is what I call it. Here's another question for you. Do you accept books that inaccurately record archaeology or customs, places, names, biblical events? Are you willing to accept books like that have these errors in people, places, things, and situations? Is that something you think is good? Let's put it to you this way. If you're a baby, you have a pretty specific diet. You're not ready to eat meat yet because your body needs certain nutrients. Your body hasn't developed. It can't sort out the good from the bad. So as a baby, if you eat something bad, very bad consequences happen. You grow up bad. You grow up wrong. You grow up malignant because things happen to the brain in development. Things happen to the body in development. Things happen to very important parts of the body, your vision, your hearing, your taste, your smell, touch, all these things, your senses. I might as well say that. All those things get affected. And when you poison yourself, you don't grow. You don't grow in the fashion in which the Creator would love to see you grow in perfection and love and hope and all those things. Emotionally, what you eat can be destroyed. You can be destroyed emotionally. So anyway, let's go through this. There's a couple of things. The main thing that came up that brought this up to me was it finally told me this is it. I can't ignore this issue any longer. My idea, for the most part, you probably won't hear me talk about this after this really much. My idea is that I will teach directly from what I know is true. I will teach from the Torah. I will teach from the prophets and the history books that are approved by the nation of Israel. I will teach from the New Testament. I'll teach from books that have divine inspiration and are approved. Divinely, they are approved by miracles and works and those men who are holy that approve these things. So anyway, let's go down the list. What are some of these books? And I'm probably going to lose some subscribers at this point, but I got to tell the truth. I don't care. I need to have peace of mind that if I say something, that I can believe it for eternity. Okay, so apocrypha. No, the apocrypha books they were written or approved. They were not approved by a true prophet or apostle of God. Okay, so if you're reading one of these books, just know that in the first place, they don't have any approval from anybody that had approval from Yeshua, that had approval from Moshe, or the Torahs themselves, the books themselves, from any of the other prophets that had prophecies that came true, things like that. It's very simple to verify these books, whether they're okay or not. None of the apocryphal books were written by or approved by a true prophet or apostle. Okay, did you know that? Here's another one. No apocryphal book was confirmed by divine miracle. There's no miracles in those apocryphal books. They're really just writings, people writing. They're just, I don't know where they get this stuff. Number 3, no apocryphal book contains predictive prophecy, which would have served to confirm divine inspiration. So there's no proofs. A messenger of God should have miracles and proofs. If we're going to have holy writings derived out of these people and these words of these people, they need to have miracles that validate holy principles. I'm not talking about what's going to happen in the end times where the evil ones, are able to fool the people with whatever it is, necromancy or all that stuff, and divination and all that. I'm not talking about that. I'm not talking about pulling the wool over anybody's eye over an unholy and unvalidated principle or doctrine. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about holy principles we see laid out in the Ten Commandments, for instance, right? No apocryphal book has any predictive prophecy. 4, Yeshua HaMashiach and the disciples ignored these books. If you're reading one of these books, Yeshua, the guy who rose from the dead and paid for your salvation, never acknowledged it. In fact, you might say that the disciples, the apostles, and Yeshua almost purposely avoided ever talking about these books. You might say, because they were open school of thought at that time. Basic education of the world. Okay? But they were avoided entirely. How? 5, let's see here. Rejected by the first century Jewish councils. That's really important. Those are the people who passed us, who preserved for us the Torah and brought us the Torah. Those are the people that brought us what we now have. That gave you the whole basis of your thought in the first place. The nation of Israel brought us that. Okay? And I'm not going to go into the anti-Semitism that's happening about that right now. People are trying to throw out even the validity of the Israel nation right now, which is absolutely insane. Anyway, I'll just keep going here. So the first century Jewish councils didn't approve of these apocryphal books, and many predominant church fathers, Jerome, many of the people who were putting together these books at the time. What ended up happening was these educated people who were inspired by God rejected them. That's what happened. They started getting more information, more understanding, how to validate the scriptures, who was talking in these scriptures, and they threw them out. They were junk. Well, yeah, sure, people keep them in their library, right? I remember a woman told me one time, I go, why do you bring these conversations up here on Facebook? Because it's like social media. Everybody gets to talk. And, she just throws stuff on the wall that is obvious lies and goes against Torah or goes against, the Hebrew scriptures or the New Testament. Why do you put this stuff up? And you seem like somebody who's, involved. You want to be involved. You want to have an accurate point of view on doctrine, it seems like. But why would you throw this junk up on the wall? She goes, because I'm an academic. Basically is what she said. I don't know exactly what she said. I'm an academic. I like to have full flavors of everything. And I'm thinking to myself, and it brings me back to that thought about babies, right? Like, would you leave a bottle of poison around next to a baby? Is that what you do? Let's keep moving forward. I think you get the point on that. Also, there's historical errors in these books. Okay? You cannot verify the author. For instance, the book of Enoch. The book of Enoch supposedly was written, 3 millennia before they find this thing, about the first century. Let's see, I actually have was written in the 2nd and 1st century is what they say. And they cannot even validate the author because all of a sudden this book basically appears. Okay? Never mentioned before ever in history or anything. Except for, it talks about it in, let's see, certain things here. Most scholars believe the book of Enoch was written in the 2nd, 1st century when he most likely lived. And the Jews or Christians have ever considered that book of Enoch to be part of the canon. Okay, there's some small sects, especially in Ethiopia, that give it some status, but to anyone who understands that the scriptures should be holy, would not accept this book. It also has all kinds of false doctrines in it. People are deriving the fake false doctrine of flat earth. So all these crazy, once you have one bad thing, it's like a seed, and it gives birth to all sorts of other evil lies. That's also what happens when people start believing these things that are not holy. I'll get into the scripture about that in Romans chapter 1. It says, verse 28, and even though they did not like to retain God in their knowledge, God gave them over to a reprobate mind to do the things which are not convenient. Basically, so there's a law. It's a spiritual law that if you don't accept truth, if you don't accept the love of the truth, and you allow these stuff into your life, they're going to take seed, and they're going to start other problems. Okay? That is what's going to happen. There's a spiritual principle to it. All right, let's see here. So, where was I at? The apocrypha contradicts divinely approved books. So these books actually, they contradict books that we know are divine. They have approved, some of these books that actually have approved prophecies in them, things like that. They contradict what is actually divinely written. The apocrypha contradicts. They also teach false doctrines like Mass, the Catholic Mass, praying to the dead, paying for atonement of sin, that you could pay for sin, right? And worship of angels. Perhaps that angels have gender. We know that angels don't have gender. Yeshua said that at the return, when everything is restored, the kingdom or the new heavens and new earth, that we will be like the angels. We will not be marrying or given in marriage. There will not be marriage. Basically, that's sex. Whenever Yeshua or a holy man or God himself, if Yeshua or any of the prophets talk about sex or marriage, they're actually talking about the covenant of consummating the marriage, consecrating the marriage. Okay, so let's see your transition. The translation that really set this fire off with me was somebody shared with me that there was a translation done, and then I looked up this translation. It was actually done for a political gain in one part of the world. I'm not going to identify it because I don't want anybody to actually identify who I'm talking about and what's going on. But there's translations out there that people are translating to prove separation of people, and this is also evil. So how about let's see. I just wanted to touch on a couple more things, and we'll finish up. You'll notice that the people who believe in these apocryphal books also have all kinds of other doctrines, crazy schools of thought. They're involved in, picking up things like Paleo language as the biblical language, which Paleo is not Hebrew at all. It was just the common language. It's almost like English of today. It's like the world's common language. Back then, ancient history, Paleo was a common language. But we know it wasn't the script of God. Exodus 32:16 says that it was God's handwriting. That means it was not man-made from pictographs. So, but they have all these crazy things. They believe in flat earth. They believe angels are having sex with people, with women. They believe all these things when angels don't have gender. And they come up with all these crazy ideas. And next thing you know, they're not even reading the scriptures anymore. They're not even reading the Torah. They're not even reading the prophets. They're just going straight to these false books because they love the controversy. Now they're addicted, and they love thinking they're a foremost authority, and they love being involved in that controversy and all that upheaval and strife. They love it. They're attracted to it, and their teeth are bloody. They love it. They're gnashing of teeth is what they are. That's all I'm going to say about this, but except this. Go back to Torah. Man shall not live by bread alone, but by every word that proceeds from the mouth of Elohim. That's why I'm on my cutting board right now, where I prepare food also. Because man shall not live on bread alone, but by every word that comes from God's law, His word, Devarim. I think I've said enough. Shalom.